Here's something that still blows my mind. Galvatron isn't a new robot at all. He's a dying Megatron, rebuilt from scrap by a god the size of a planet. And today, we're breaking down every power that Rebuild gave him. That was almost 4 decades ago, back when this franchise first sank its hooks into us, and he's haunted fans ever since. The upgrade made him mighty, yet it broke something inside him. And it all starts with his cannon. The particle cannon. The weapon welded to Galvatron's right arm is a particle cannon, and it's where his legend begins. It sits roughly where Megatron's old fusion cannon used to be, except Unicron redesigned the whole thing and bolted it on for good. Galvatron never has to draw a gun or reach for a rifle. His weapon is always locked, loaded, and ready. That matters, because this beam operates on a whole other level than the fusion cannon ever did. We see it within seconds of his debut when he crashes a coronation and vaporizes Starscream, his oldest rival, with a single casual shot. No last words, no dramatic staggering, just a crown clattering onto a pile of smoking ash. That moment scarred a generation of kids in the theater, and it tells you everything about the cannon's output. Here's the odd part nobody mentions, though. That instant kill power seems to fade over time. Early on, it disintegrates a Transformer outright, yet later he fires the very same cannon constantly, and his enemies keep surviving. Fans still argue over whether the writers quietly weakened him to keep the show running, or whether his broken mind simply couldn't aim anymore. Both answers are a little sad. Cannon mode. Every Transformer transforms. That's the whole gimmick. But where Megatron folded down into a handheld pistol, Galvatron supersized the idea completely. His alternate mode is a massive artillery-style laser cannon, a hulking piece of siege hardware that dwarfs the little sidearm his predecessor used to be. The upside is scale and pure menace. A pistol needs a hand to fire it, which always left Megatron oddly dependent on a loyal soldier willing to pick him up and pull the trigger. Galvatron's cannon mode is far more self-contained and imposing, built to level a fortress rather than win a quiet duel. It also says something about the character. Megatron hid as a concealable weapon, while Galvatron becomes a giant, unmissable gun. That's the gap between a schemer and a lunatic in a single design choice. Now for the contradiction fans love to poke at. Even in this form, he arguably still needs someone to aim and fire him for full effect. And the movie shows a brief, infamous moment of exactly that. So how does the proudest robot in the galaxy feel about being picked up and pointed like a tool? It's delicious. There's a practical cost, too. A stationary cannon is a big, obvious target with none of his usual speed, which is why he rarely leans on it, preferring to stomp and blast on his own 2 feet. Wait until you see what that new body can lift and shrug off. Strength and durability. Unicron didn't just hand Galvatron a bigger gun, he built him a tougher, stronger chassis from the ground up. Time and again, Galvatron is shown as physically mightier than the Megatron who came before, hitting harder, in taking more punishment, and tossing his own troops around like toys whenever the mood takes him. That upgraded frame shows up everywhere. He wades into fights that would cripple lesser bots and simply keeps coming, trading blows with foes carrying the full power of the Matrix and walking away. For a faction as backstabbing as the Decepticons, a leader who can physically crush any challenger is a genuine asset. Nobody stages a coup against a guy who can flatten your head with one hand. Here's a fact that surprises people. His toughness ties into a bizarre chapter involving raw energy. Not long after his big screen debut, he survives being dunked in a lake of superheated plasma on a distant world. Most machines would melt into slag on the spot. He crawled back out stronger than before and far more deranged. The catch is a leadership one, not a hardware one. All that muscle feeds his arrogance. Because he can win nearly any brawl, he rarely bothers to think strategically, and that overconfidence has handed the Autobots more victories than his cannon ever cost them. Raw strength means little without an army to point it at, and that's a story all its own. Leading an army. For all his solo firepower, Galvatron is a commander first, and the loyalty he inspires is a weapon in itself. At his side stands Cyclonus, arguably the most devoted lieutenant in the whole franchise, a soldier who follows his unstable leader into any fire without a flicker of doubt. Behind them comes Scourge and his sweeps, plus the wider Decepticon war machine, giving Galvatron a fighting force that stretches across worlds. The payoff is obvious. One warlord with a cannon is dangerous. A warlord who can throw an entire army at you is a nightmare. In the live-action era, that idea gets cranked even higher, when Galvatron commands a whole legion of man-made drones designed to be mass-produced and hurled at the enemy in waves. Numbers like that turn a single villain into an unstoppable tide. Here's the twist, though. His command works partly because so much of it runs on fear. Soldiers obey him out of a mix of respect and sheer dread, having all seen what he does to anyone who disappoints him. Cyclonus stays truly loyal, but plenty of others simply keep their heads down and pray his temper lands on someone else. Draining energy. One of Galvatron's most underrated talents is his relationship with energy itself, both pulling it in and unleashing it. The Decepticons have always hungered for Energon, the lifeblood of Cybertron, and under Galvatron, that hunger turns almost personal. His schemes circle back again and again to siphoning, stealing, and stockpiling raw power on an enormous scale, whether he's draining a planet or hijacking some doomsday-sized energy source. Strategically, that instinct is razor-sharp. Energy is the one thing every Transformer needs to survive and fight, so a leader obsessed with controlling it is quietly playing the long game. On some flickering level, Galvatron understands that whoever owns the power owns the entire war, even when he can't understand his own emotions. Here's the lesser-known wrinkle. For him, power isn't merely a resource. It's closer to an addiction. The more he seizes, the more he craves. Like an engine running hotter, the more fuel you feed it, glowing and rattling until it's ready to fly apart. That appetite is a huge part of what keeps him so unpredictable and so deadly. The downside almost writes itself. Chasing ever bigger sources makes him reckless and easy to read. The Autobots learn to anticipate him precisely because they know he can't resist a shiny power source, and they bait him into trap after trap using nothing but that craving. Flight and space. Galvatron belongs to the skies and the stars. His body is built to fly, letting him hover, soar, and cross open space entirely under his own power. This isn't a jet mode gimmick like the Seekers rely on. He takes to the air in robot form, blasting across battlefields whenever the whim strikes him. Untethered flight is a huge edge. It hands him a commanding view of any fight and lets him strike from angles ground-bound warriors simply can't reach. Pair that with the arm cannon, and you get a warlord raining fire from above while staying maddeningly out of range. He can run down fleeing enemies or bail out of a losing fight in a heartbeat, which makes him weirdly slippery for a bot so bulky. The deep space side is the fascinating bit. Galvatron thinks and operates on a galactic scale, treating whole worlds as stepping stones and crossing between them without a ship to carry him. That's exactly how Cyclonus finds him stranded and raving on a far-off planet after his fall from grace. His story was never once confined to Earth or Cybertron. There's a flip side, though. Flight feeds his impatience badly. He often rockets straight into danger alone, outrunning his own army and leaving his troops scrambling far behind. A leader who's always 50 miles ahead is a leader who keeps getting ambushed with nobody there to save him. Gift or curse? You can't explain Galvatron's powers without Unicron, because Unicron is the reason he exists at all. The Chaos Bringer scooped up the dying Megatron, along with a handful of doomed Decepticons, and reforged them into a fresh, upgraded army. The strength, the cannon, the body itself, all of it came straight from a god the size of a planet. In return, Unicron wired in a psychic leash designed to keep his new servant obedient. At first, the deal is pure upside. Galvatron comes back deadlier than the Megatron who died on that shuttle, carrying a body that can vaporize almost anything in its path. For a beaten leader on death's door, you honestly couldn't ask for a better second chance. Then it gets fascinating, because the leash runs both ways. When Galvatron grabs the Autobot matrix of leadership and tries to use it as leverage, he actually threatens his own maker with it. Unicron repays the betrayal by flooding his mind with pure agony. The creation turns on the creator almost instantly, which is genuinely bold storytelling for a movie aimed at kids. And there's the hidden cost. While that link holds, Galvatron is nobody's master, but a puppet dangling on a very long string, and some buried part of him knows it. That resentment quietly plants the first seeds of the madness to come. The comics, though, handed him a power that makes all of this look tame: time travel. In the classic Marvel run, especially the beloved British stories, he doesn't just arrive from another place. He arrives from another time, torn out of a distant future and dropped into the hero's present, a monster from tomorrow crashing straight into today. The edge that gives him is staggering, and it isn't only the time jumping itself, it's the sheer apocalyptic power he drags along with him. Comic Galvatron is written as a nearly unstoppable force, so mighty that Autobots and Decepticons alike are forced to weigh an alliance just to have a prayer of surviving him. He answers to no faction and terrifies everyone on the board. Here's the part longtime readers still argue over. The comic version and the cartoon version are, in many ways, two entirely different characters who happen to share a name and a face. The Marvel Galvatron has his own tangled origin and a level of raw might that dwarfs his animated counterpart. Some fans crown him the true apex Galvatron. Others feel the time travel angle made him far too powerful, a plot device with legs rather than a proper villain. The downside of being a time-displaced titan is loneliness. He belongs to no era and no side, which makes him magnificent and utterly alone, ruling an empire of exactly one. Molecular transformation. When Galvatron finally reached the big screen a little over a decade ago, the filmmakers rebuilt him from scratch. In the movies, he isn't reborn by Unicron. He's built by humans. A tech company studies Megatron's severed head and constructs a man-made transformer, never once realizing that Megatron's mind has quietly survived inside the data and is waiting to take the wheel. The headline power is molecular transformation. Instead of the clanking, folding shift we all grew up watching, this Galvatron dissolves into a swarm of tiny metal particles and rebuilds himself into whatever shape he pleases. He can pixelate, flow, and reassemble on the move, something no earlier version could ever pull off. The advantage is wild, almost unfair flexibility. A robot who can break apart into a cloud of programmable matter is nearly impossible to pin down or destroy. Blow him to pieces, and he simply flows back together and keeps on coming. Now the controversy, because this one split the fan base clean down the middle. Plenty of longtime fans hated the pixelated transformation, arguing it betrayed the mechanical charm that made these robots special in the first place. Others called it a fresh, logical evolution of the whole idea. Either way, it made this Galvatron a very different beast from the one they grew up with. His deadliest weapon. Here's the twist I promised you back at the top. Galvatron's greatest power might not be the cannon, the strength, or the time-hopping at all. It might simply be his insanity. That fractured, unpredictable mind was born in a pool of superheated plasma, and it makes him something no enemy can ever truly read. In warfare, that unpredictability is a real and badly overlooked weapon. The Autobots built their entire strategy around anticipating a cunning, calculating Megatron. Galvatron threw that playbook straight out the window. You simply can't plan around a leader who might launch a brilliant assault one minute and blast his own lieutenant the next because he heard a voice in his head. Here's the thing worth savoring, though. The madness was never the original plan. It grew out of that plasma accident and became his defining trait, so central that most fans today can't picture him any other way. But it's also the reason the Decepticons never truly thrived under him. His own soldiers feared him more than they feared the enemy, and that terror bred resentment and endless scheming behind his back. Jokes aside, that's the real tragedy of Galvatron. Every gift Unicron ever gave him came wrapped in a curse. If this stirred something up, go subscribe and ring that bell so you don't miss the next video. That's what makes Galvatron so unforgettable. His mightiest strengths and his fatal flaws are the exact same thing, which is rare for any villain. It digs into the very rivalry that forged this monster in the first place. I hope you found this one helpful, and I'll see you in the next deep dive.